I don't know about you, but I often find that when it comes to doing lettering in my bullet journal, I very often fall into using the same types of fonts over and over and over again. Despite the fact that I actually really like trying new things in my bullet journal, I often find this difficult to extend to my lettering, oddly. So if, like me, you were looking for something a little bit different, today I have 6 different lettering styles that you can use in your journal. These ones are mainly going to be good for headers or main titles on pages, rather than bulk writing. And they won't necessarily work for every type of theme that you might want to do, but they can be a fun way to add a little bit of decorative flair into your journal. As you can see, the first one we're drawing out here is kind of just a simple curled style of all caps. I in particular like the letters B, D, H, A, K, and Q in this style because they feature the curl in an interesting position. This style doesn't take very long to get used to writing in, but when you're first practicing it, it can be a little tricky to get the curl to look uniform. That aside though, I do think it's a very pretty style of lettering. I've had feedback in my previous lettering videos that people would like to see up-close screenshots of the finished alphabet, so I'm making sure to do that in today's video. Be sure to grab a screenshot here if you want to use this lettering style in your planner. Our next lettering style is another one that has some simple curls, but I guess you could say these curls come all the way around to make some little circles. I like this lettering style because it has some bigger open spaces that you could either fill with color or gradients or patterns, and this would help you tie the lettering into the theme that you're doing in your journal. For instance, using particular colors from your color palette, or patterns associated with the theme as a whole. The nice part about the larger block style part of the lettering is that you can use the dot grid in your journal to help you line this up. This not only helps you to keep it straight, but also helps you to keep it a uniform size. I've made my blocks to be approximately 2/3 of the dot grid box spaces, so roughly between 3 and 4 millimeters wide. The pen that I used for the majority of the lettering styles in this video was the Papermate Flair pen. I wanted something that was going to be nice and bold, so it would show up well on camera and you can see the letter forms nice and easily. Again, here's an up-close angle of that second lettering style, and then we're on to the third one. This one is certainly the lettering style in the lineup that is probably going to be the most niche, because you're really only going to be doing it for something like a dog theme or a pet theme or something similar. As you can hopefully tell, this one was inspired by little dog faces, and I know I've seen a similar lettering style that's for little cats as well. Because every doggo is unique, so too this lettering style can be. It's okay if the same letter doesn't actually look the same twice, if that makes sense. That's something that I often have a lot of trouble with, especially because every one of my names has a double letter. So Jess with double S, Corrin with double R, and Siachi with double C, and they're right next to each other, so if they don't look the same, they kind of look weird. Anyway, here is our up-close angle for our doggo font, and it's also good to note that all of these fonts were inspired by pictures that I found online, and each of those pictures can be found linked in the description box below. On to the next font though. This one is what I can only describe as a sailor font, and doing a quick Google search, it seems that the internet agrees with me, so that's good. This one very much reminds me of old school sailor tattoos, so I think it would make a fun font for a nautical theme, or of course a sailor theme, or possibly a pirate theme, or anything kind of in that realm. This is another one that offers those larger open spaces, but to make it really look like a sailor font, we just colour in the lower half of the letter, or I'm using the lower third. I've just used black, but you could always go with a colour to help it tie into an overall colour palette that you're using. I like the wavy serifs on this version of the lettering, which is a little bit different to another sailor style font that I featured in a previous lettering styles video. This one is another style that takes a little bit of getting used to though, but I made the block sections of the letters to be the same size as the dot grid boxes, which made drawing it out just a little bit faster. Effectively matching the lettering to the dot grid in your notebook can just help speed you up a little bit, because you effectively have a guideline to work with. Notably, I obviously have pencil lines in here to make me work a little bit faster, and I would encourage you to go in with pencil first when you're trying a new style of lettering, just to make sure that you get your letter forms looking the way you want to, and also getting your spacing right. There have been many times where I have thought that I could freehand my lettering and ended up regretting it because the letters looked a little bit strange. These ones look pretty good though, and we can move on to our next style of lettering, which is probably the most forgiving of the styles that we have here, because irregularities are expected. If you know me, you know I don't really do too well with randomness when it comes to drawing things out, lettering included. So having kind of irregular sizing in terms of the strokes that form each of the parts of the letters, not something I'm super comfortable with, but as I said, is very forgiving. If your hand's a little bit shaky, or you apply too much or not enough pressure at a certain point, it kind of adds to the overall look. This one is effectively styled to look like tree branches. So on each of the letters we also have a little leaf to kind of hammer that home. Rather than using the Papermate Flair for these letters, I instead started off by using the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, but mine's running out of ink, so I did end up changing it to the brush-tipped Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen. Effectively for the same reason though, because both of those are brush pens, it means that you can apply smaller or heavier amounts of pressure and get differences in terms of the thickness of your lines, which gives us those kind of knobbly bits which make these look like branches. This one would be good for a whole bunch of different themes, whether it be kind of like nature-related, botanicals, but you could also have things like fairies or fae theme, any kind of woodland creature theme. There's a lot of different applications for this one. This lettering style is effectively the more rustic version of a previous lettering style that I featured in a previous video, which was a lot more kind of monoline and elegant looking, whereas this one ends up looking a little bit more sketchy and a little bit more nature-related. Out of the lettering styles that I drew out here, this one certainly took the longest, not in terms of the sketching out of the letters, because really it's just kind of an all caps font, but when it came to drawing it out with the pen, as mentioned, the whole randomness thing isn't really in my wheelhouse, so it did take me a while. I will say though, much like anything, the longer that I did it for, the easier it got, because I got kind of into patterns or routines with how I wanted to form each of the different strokes of the letters. This is another one where I feel like each of your letters would end up looking a little bit different, but onto the lettering style we have at the bottom here, this one is a little bit more kind of witchy or magic or rune inspired, and we've done a couple of these styles of fonts before, but none quite like this. Of the styles we have in this video, I would say that this one is probably the most straightforward to do, but I also feel like it's probably the least cohesive of the lettering styles. That's because each of these letters are kind of based on different magical elements or symbols. For instance, the C is based on the moon, the H is based on the Pisces sign, the A is based on the symbol for air, and the O is based on the symbol for the sun, that kind of thing. That being said though, I do think it would be a cool font to include if you were doing a magic or witchcraft theme in your journal, or any theme in that kind of realm. Hopefully these lettering styles have inspired you to try something new in your journal, but if you wanted to see even more lettering ideas, then we do have a playlist dedicated to that on the channel. Click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.